Yeah. Have you all ever heard of the Out and About magazine?
I have. I haven't read it or brought one. I have heard of it before.
They're
Okay, here we go, gentlemen. Here we go. Good
right.
evening and welcome to episode 2 of the Conversation with Men of Color. I'm your host, Omar Rashada. This is a new episode series, Facebook Live, Zoom, where men of color can discuss issues that have a profound effect on our communities. And as you can see, I have 3 awesome, famous celebrities and well-known gentlemen on the show tonight. I got Lonzo Hopkins, Emmanuel Magruder, and we have Mr. Larry Morris. Gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Good
We know
evening.
you're the famous one, man. We on your show.
Amen.
Good evening. Thanks for allowing us to come on.
No problem, no problem. So what I want to do, I want to start off with Mr. Larry Morris. If you gentlemen can all just introduce yourself, family background, career background, education background, and then we're gonna go from there.
Hi, I'm Larry Morris, of course, and I'm from Bridgeton, New Jersey, actually, and I came to Delaware to go to Goldie Beacom. That's a business school, and while I was at the and it was downtown, and while I was there, I had to live in the YMCA at 11th and Washington. So for 2 years, I lived in the YMCA, and what happened during that time was I was able to see the children that came in and participated in the youth division at the YMCA. And then I got to see the community children, and I decided that going to business school was not what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to be working with children. And so I left Goldie Beacom with an associate's degree and went to Lincoln University so that I could study sociology and work in the community. And I've been doing that ever since. So I've had a variety of positions, from a basketball coach to the NAACP president to working on the governor's staff. I have 3 wonderful adult children, and I have 5 grandchildren, and I just had my first great grandchild.
Okay, all right, congratulations.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Congrats.
Okay, Emmanuel.
I'm Emmanuel Magruder. About me, my education wise, I actually have a bachelor's degree in health service administration from Strayer University. My background, I was in banking for about 12 and a half years, held various different roles from being a teller all the way up to being a branch manager in the retail division of the bank. I just left banking about a year and a half ago. I am now a licensed appraiser and adjuster, currently in the insurance world, where I do fraud investigations on behalf of the bank. Love what I do now. I work for an amazing company. For me, I just started a photography business called Kim Visions Inc. An amazing photography business, where I specialize in certain things. Crazy part is I got into photography because I have a beautiful 5-year-old daughter that a lot of modeling agencies wanted to take under the wing, but they still wanted me to pay for things like headshots and different things like that. And I just wasn't willing to pay $600-700 for my headshots. So I'll never forget, about 2.5, almost 3 years ago, I was at one agency. And I was at an agency and I left that agency because they wanted me to pay again $600 for headshots. Went directly to Best Buy, and it was the best decision I ever made because I fell in love with something that I never expected to become a passion of mine. I do a lot. I sit on various boards in the city of Wilmington. I came here about 8 years ago, got into city politics 4 years ago. Now I sit as the vice chairman of the board of directors for Innovative Community Housing, the treasurer for the Wickham Pack organization.
Like we got you on mute.
Yeah, I can't hear him.
He's muted.
Oh, you muted, Emmanuel? I think you're muted.
He is muted.
Yeah.
Emmanuel, you're muted.
Yeah.
There he is.
Yeah, you were muted. We didn't get to hear your last comments.
I'm sorry. I said I have a beautiful 5-year-old daughter.
Right.
And I've been married. It'll be 8 years on the 22nd. When you're as young as I am, I would say 8 years is a long time, but I would say, it was rough. But I think now I'm to a point where now it's become easy. You just let her have her way, and we keep it moving.
Okay. All right, Lorenzo, you get to follow that, man. What you got?
Yeah, I'm a retired military veteran. Served the first part of my career in the Army, retired from the Air Force. Been in law enforcement, worked on the state and federal level, currently on the federal level. For 28 years, nearing retirement, nearing that age. Really involved in the community, co-host of a podcast, radio show, the Brown Eye Perspective. My proudest moments, being a father of a 21-year-old and a husband of 25 years. So I'm about I'm in a legacy part of my life now, man. I'm really trying to grow our people and bring the next generation along. That's my role right now.
I want to stay with you, Lorenzo, and then I'll move on to Emmanuel and then Mr. Larry. All three of you gentlemen mentioned that you were fathers. Prior to becoming a father, would you say when you became a father, it kind of changed your life around? You became more serious, you became more humble, you became more responsible. What type of joy has being a father brought to you, gentlemen? I want to start off with Lorenzo.
Well, yeah, before I became a father, most people can attest to this. You're pretty much young and reckless. Really didn't have any responsibility, so you pretty much did the things that you wanted to do. Becoming a father, what it did for me, it made me focus because I understood I was no longer just responsible for my life. I was responsible for my next generation of not only my son but my family, putting them in a better place than I was in when I grew up. I'm not saying it was terrible, but I didn't have some of the lessons that I'm gonna give my son now. So yeah, it did humble me. And then raising a young Black son in the current climate is something totally different because it's a different kind of stress. When they're younger, you worry about things. Now when they're older, then they got 16, start driving, you worried about things. Now you're a young man. So there's a thing, it's continually growing. It's growing me as a man and making sure that I'm not only talking the talk, but walking the walk because I have someone watching me.
All right, Emmanuel?
My story goes back a little bit farther. I came from very, very broken home. I experienced single parent home, but that single parent had a crack addiction. So I grew up in that era, real bad crack addiction. So I started pretty much raising kids by the time I was 6 years old, literally raising my siblings. And I would run home from kindergarten to take care of kids. And so me growing up in that type of broken environment, I've been in foster care and everything. I always knew from then that the moment that, I had my own child, that I wanted things to be completely the opposite of that. At one point, I had gave up on, I wanted a child. I had been married about 3 years, wanted a child, and it just was not happening. God ended up, finally blessing me. He blessed me with a beautiful daughter. And that day that my daughter came, I never forget the moment that she popped out of my wife's womb. I literally fell to the ground. I turned around from everybody. I fell to the ground and cried and began to pray because I knew now that regardless of how much I had an opportunity before to grow up and take care of my siblings on literally like a father level, I knew that now was that moment that I had to be able to help through God's guidance and to be able to shape and mold another child, my child's life, someone that would never be able to have the opportunity to, as long as I got something to do with, to be able to be some of the things that I was. And so watching her grow, I'm blessed to see her, she's a child that, again, she's a gifted kid. She started kindergarten at 3. So now she's 5 years old in first grade, and just watching to see the levels in which he's going, even at 5 years old, I just watch and I'm just in awe. And the one thing that I always say, that's God's child. I just get the opportunity to watch over and cultivate her.
Right, definitely. Mr. Larry? Yes, sir. Mr. Larry, you next.
Is he frozen?
Well, I have kind of an unusual story because when I am I on mute?
No, you're good.
Let's see if I'm on mute. No.
No, you're
Can
good.
you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay. So my story is a little bit unusual because the moment I knew I was supposed to work with children at the age of 19, I began to work with other people's children. And so by the time my oldest daughter Tamara was born, I had been working and more or less kind of raising neighborhood children for about 7 years. So, but it's ironic that I, a lot of people know me for basketball. Like I was a basketball coach for a long time, and produced a lot of experienced and achieved players. But the fact is, I never played basketball when I was little. I didn't learn how to play basketball till I was about 19. The stimulant for me to learn how to coach basketball at age 20 was so that when I had my sons, I could really teach them how to play. And so by 26, I had my first child, and it was a girl. The second child was a girl, and the third child was a girl. So now I'm looking at things a little differently because I've been working with boys in the inner city
Right.
all that time and really enjoying it. And I was a big brother in the Big Brother program, and those boys became my boys. And when my daughters came, I began to take them with me. I was proud to, whenever there was an opportunity to go out in the community, and also I had been like studying these boys, like how can I break them out of some of this the bad habits they have. They're good boys. They're just like now, these children out there, there's some of them is causing havoc. They're good children. They just haven't had grown-ups in their life to make them sit still and make
Right.
wiser choices. And so I began to so I was more or less practicing to be a father before I had my own children on these neighborhood children. And so it's been just an absolute joy. People have said to me over time, "Don't you ever wish you had sons?" And my immediate response is, I got about like 200 or 300 sons out there in the community, and I just believe that being a parent or being a mentor is like a parent, and it's your responsibility. Those children don't know anything.
Right.
They don't know anything, and unless they have grown people showing them the right way to do things, they're going to make mistakes, and then we end up blaming them. But it's not their fault. They're more or less the victim. So my job as a father in the community and a father of my own is to it's hard. You got to if you're not the children you're responsible for, you're not doing your job. You have to be. Back in my day, they used to say, well, this is right before they was getting ready to whip your behind. They say, well, this is going to hurt me more than it hurts you. And then you're like, how in the world is this going to hurt you more than it hurts me? And the thing is, the basis behind it is that you don't really want to see children in any kind of duress, but you have to. They have to learn that there are consequences to behavior, and you have to sometimes cause them to be under duress if they're going to learn that there are consequences to negative behavior, and you have to reward them when when they do positive things.
Right.
Hey, Omar, real quick. I
Yeah,
want to pay homage to Mr. Larry. I mean, Mr. Morris, we talked in the green room earlier. I mean, I remember watching you some 25 plus years ago, man, and you've always led by example, and I appreciate that. The way you carried yourself, I've seen you in circles that people don't understand, that to navigate those circles and get your voice heard, that you're speaking out, but you're also reaching back. So I appreciate you for doing that, sir. So you were that beacon of light when I was young coming up in this game. So I appreciate you.
Amen.
Right. All three of you gentlemen pretty much mentioned that you were volunteering in the community. Emmanuel, you and I met several years ago with the YPs, and you served as vice president, and you've been involved with other organizations. What led you gentlemen to want to be involved in the community in terms of volunteering your services and helping other people? What
So,
was,
for somebody like myself, I understand where I come from. And I tell people all the time, at this point in my life, I beat the streets. I didn't become a product of my environment. I became an overcomer of my environment. You know, statistics. I went to school in Williamsport, PA for some time. My mom moved me. And I had a teacher when I was in fifth grade, I'll never forget, told me, you're so angry, you're going to be in jail. She said, by the time you're able to, you're going to be in jail somewhere. And when she said that to me, it kind of, it didn't bother me at the time, but I never thought about it until I became an actual adult. And the same teacher, maybe probably right before you met me, Omar, reached out to me and on Facebook. She found me on Facebook. And she said, I just want to apologize to you. And she said, the man that you have become, you are such an example and such an inspiration to so many. And just know that I've been watching you for some time. Right. And at that moment, I knew that what I was doing was the right thing. And I just felt like, how dare I focus just on my own life when I need to be able to be an impact on others' lives? I knew that there was nobody that can go out here and be a voice for people and to do community stuff if it wasn't going to be a voice like mine, because I've been there, I've done it, I've survived it, I've overcome it. So why not have somebody speak on your behalf or to do things, you know, to speaking and being that voice of change than somebody that then came through it, you know? So that's what really, and then meeting individuals like you know, Mr. J Street, seen something in me. He was actually one of my customers, and I had went to him one day. I'll never forget. I said in 4 years I'm gonna run for office. This was in 16. Mm-hmm. I said 4 years from now, and I'm gonna run for office. And Mr. Street said to me, he said, no, the people need you now. And I'm like, I'm still too young, Mr. Street. I'm like, I'm just gonna wait. He said, no. He said, you meet me at my office. And he's seen something in me, and then others seen stuff in me. You know, it was just one of them situations where I felt like it was my God-given duty to do it because, like I said, I had mentors. I had to give back because, again, I beat the street. So that's what made me come out.
All right. Lorenzo or Mr. Larry?
Hey, Mr. Larry.
So the question is, would I get into community work?
Community service, yep.
Yeah. Well, when I was I have three brothers, and I'm the second oldest. And when I was a few weeks before I was to turn 9, my dad was killed in a car accident. Oh, wow. I left my mom to raise 4 boys, and she didn't have a high school diploma, but what she lacked academic knowledge, she made up for in discipline. We had more rules and regulations in my house than my boys did, you know, growing up. And it was like, man, how come we have all these rules and all that, you know? And I kind of resented it. I mean, you know, like I wish at one time I said to myself, I wish I lived in the projects with my boys. They don't have any rules, you know. And so, but when I got away from home, oh my gosh, I could see how blessed I was to be in a structure like that where your mom held you accountable. I began to feel badly that some of these children don't have adults in their life holding them accountable. And so I just felt that was what I was supposed to do. It's what I know now is God stepping in and saying, you know, I'm not going to give you a whole lot of gifts and talents, but I'm going to give you the talent of working with children. And so I spent hours upon hours most of my life in the street with children, you know, and now those children are like you know, 50 years old, and they quote my rules from way back then when they talk about when people ask them, why were you in his program? Well, they start talking about my rules, and it was like, it's like eye-opening, because children really do want structure and discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Grown biological children want that, and the children that you come in contact with want that. If you don't give it to them, you lose it. You lose. And so I learned that early on. I had mentors. Hicks Anderson was one of my mentors. Floyd Casson was one of my mentors. Even Sammy Congo worked in the Y. So I wanted to give back to these children, the same kind of structure that I had when I was growing up, and the same structure that I rebelled against, because children are immature and they don't want you to give them discipline, but they absolutely value it when you give it. Now, recently I've begun to write and speak on mentoring, because we need that. We need mentoring. Years ago, when we discovered that the family wasn't doing what the family used to do, we were surprised. But now we're not surprised. Some of these children just are raising themselves. And mentoring, we have to have mentoring. And so at one point, I touched on the area of coaching. And so, you guys ever heard players say something like, I would run through a brick wall for Coach so-and-so. Okay, yeah, I've heard that over and over. So the question is, why would he run through a brick wall? And so two of the coaches that I kind of studied was John Wooden and Dean Smith. And several things they had in common was that they never raised their voice. They didn't cuss at their players, but the players loved them. And the players produced. Both of these coaches were highly successful, because the players didn't want to let them down. The consequence for breaking their rules was you let them down. And so my philosophy when out there working with children is that you have to have your rules and your boundaries, but you have to show these children that you love them.
Right.
You show them that you love them, they don't want to disappoint you.
Absolutely.
Right. So I'm just listening to you talk, and one of the things that people in the community express, and if all three of you would like to comment on this, is that they say, well, it used to be the African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. And there are many who say, well, the village is long gone. I mean, you don't even know who your neighbors are anymore. The people who used to live in the community moved out in the suburbs anymore. There's no unity. So do you three agree that the village has long since gone? You can't open your doors anymore. You can't leave your doors open anymore.
I think the village has shifted. Back to the last question real quick. I didn't answer that one yet.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Sure.
So I was in elementary. I came up doing the crack epidemic. Also, I was a teenager during that era, and I just remember. And then when I was in first grade, I was labeled a slow learner. Was told that I couldn't. I was held back. Now I hold 4 degrees, master's degree and everything. So I wanted to be that person that I needed when I was coming up. Yes, you have parents there who had to work, but I'm that guy who always felt a sense of responsibility when I made it somewhere to try to reach back and bring people along. That's why I got into community work. And the older I get more anxious about needing to develop the next generation of community leaders and activists. Because if we don't, I believe my generation, I'm gonna be honest with you, my generation at 50 let the younger generation down. Not me personally, because, but I can say my generation simply because we were so busy trying to make a living that we forgot to reach back and take care of the community. And that's why those kids now that 21 and all those things are running wild. That village that you're talking about, I think the village has shifted. It definitely has changed. No more the neighbor thing. That's why I try to be everything I can to people in the community. So I want to get the village back going, but we have to extend that village a little further now. The things you're doing on social media, mentoring, the podcast, we got to be creative to reach these young people because they're not coming and sitting down anymore. You have to meet them where they are. And one thing about today's young people, they can smell BS a mile away. We did what we were supposed to do. No, seriously, back in the day when I was growing up, you just did it, yes, sir, because they were your elders.
Yeah, right.
But now kids will tell you if you're full of crap. What Mr. Larry was talking about running through a brick wall is kids don't care how much you know until you know how much you care. Once they figure that out, they'll pretty much do what you want them to do as far as following the rules, going to school, because they don't want to disappoint you. So yeah, that's my answer to the village thing. We just have to start regrowing it, but we have to teach the next generation to grow up, because again, we failed and let it fall.
Okay. Anyone else want to comment?
Go ahead, Ms. Larry.
The village, you see, the African American community has been through a lot of transformations, et cetera, et cetera. So when there was segregation, sure, there were some cruel portions to segregation, but when we couldn't live anywhere we wanted to live, and we all lived together, man, we had PhDs lived on the corner. We had lawyers that lived in the neighborhood. Powerful. All this, and the village was that. And so as we got away from the discipline, these children today, if you don't discipline them, they don't respect you. And that's like their parents too. And some of the parents don't know what they're doing. You make you think, well, why are you having all these children? And you really you can't control them. And so the village has to be, I agree, the village has taken a different form, but we have to work hard to try to pull the village back. And that takes everybody, stop blaming these children. These children, they're just children.
They didn't raise themselves, Mr. Larry.
They need us, and so here's the thing: if you've been hurt and let down over and over and over, and here comes somebody who says, I care for you and I want to work with you and so on and so forth. In your mind, you're thinking, yeah, right. It's only going to be a matter of time before you leave me like the rest of them left me. And so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to act a fool right up front, and you're going to leave early. If you're going to leave, you're going to leave early before I open up myself. And right. So where you get children who are acting foolish. And so the grown people are saying, I can't work with them. I can't be a mentor. I can't be a big brother. I can't do nothing. I can't be a coach. These children today, all these children need is structure and discipline and love.
Emmanuel?
These two brothers pretty much summed it up. I feel like the village has, I'm a true believer of what you say out of your lips can come to fruition. In the Bible it says the matter of life and death is in your tongue. And I feel like at very, very young ages, this generation been spoken off. The village has literally given up on them before they could even have an opportunity in life. Before the opportunity to make mistakes. I think the village has gotten to a point where they forget that they went through maturation process, and there's things to be done. It's like it's almost like it's gotten to a point their ability to make mistakes, and I feel like we don't try to meet them where they are. Like Mr. Larry said, like Brother Lorenzo said, we want them to come to where we are, but we don't understand, like, the world has changed. Everything about our world has changed. Technology has literally shifted the entire dynamics of the world. The social justice, the social justice atmosphere is different than it was previously. The civil rights movement was at one level, but with everything, change comes. It becomes more and more heightened, everything. And I just feel like our village really needs to begin to rethink and to retool itself if we're ever going to get anywhere, and stop being so judgmental of why these kids are doing what they're doing, why this generation is doing this, and why they're not this, and why they're not. We're speaking death on them. And as we're speaking death, what reason would they have to want to speak life into themselves if all they know is we speaking death and we telling them what they're not? We need to begin to fight like never before to make sure that that our young people have true resources at their disposal and true examples at their disposal to want to live up to and to want to, to want to walk into. We don't give them a reason to want, we just tell them y'all need to be different, but we don't give them a way to be different. We don't give them, we just, a lot of us, we become successful. And I know, and I literally just had to check myself maybe a year ago. I always said, because my daughters, I hate paying tuition, for instance, right? But I feel like where I live at in the city of Wilmington, I have no choice but to take my child, for her to get a great education, put her in a private school or to put her in most of our community school go, because where the white kids go, they make sure that resources are in those schools, right? They make sure that the top of the line educators are in those schools. And I had to check myself. I always said, well, maybe I just buy a house, move out of the city of Wilmington, buy another house. I don't have to live here. I can just go buy a house somewhere, in a suburb and get away from all the mess. Right. And I had to I went to my wife maybe about 6 months ago, right before COVID. I said, oh, no. I said, I need to live around Black folks because I can be different. I need to be around this. And people always ask me, like, why you live here? I live at 6th and Jefferson. Why you live here? You don't have to live here. You got good jobs. You're a very intelligent individual. You got your family. You got your life. Why do you live here? And I told him, and I tell you, I'm from North Philly. I'm from 26 and Lehigh. I'm from the jungle. So this don't bother me. Where you think it bothers me, I said I can be more of a help living right here on this block and helping these young men on this block and saying things and being able to speak into their life on this block than I could ever be if I was somebody coming from out here and trying to come in talking to them, because you don't understand. I live your dynamic. Right. I chose a different way. I talk to drug dealers every single day. I talk to these young men every single day, whether or not they're around this and that go through and that are part, all the different things that are going on. I talk to them, but I let them know I did this. I sold. I considered bad, but the key about stocks, how to buy into stocks. I send everybody, different ways. If you're going to be out here and do something, building your way to get out of it. Don't just try to sit here and wallow this and think, because it's only 2 ways to go: jail or death. But I feel like it's not enough of us in our village that is giving out the tools to be able to get out of it, or to be able to, to cultivate our children, to make them want to do anything different. The only thing that they see, only thing that a lot of our youth see, is they need money, because like these two gentlemen said, they raising themselves. When you raising yourselves, you need resources. You need to be able to eat. You need to be able to do it. You need to be able to buy clothes, get clothes. You need transportation to get to school. But if you ain't got nobody there that's doing it, the drug dealer down the block is telling you, well, youngin, if you do this X, Y, Z, you can get this couple dollars. Who you gonna flock to? A reason of one change. Right, so right. The village, it's the village. I just feel like the village itself needs to really reset itself and retool itself, because and be able to be willing and able to go to the bat for the resources that we need as an entire community.
Right.
And one thing, Omar, real quick, that to piggyback off Emmanuel, he's right, because I had to learn, meeting kids, young people where they are. I knew this already, but in your house, you do things different. Do as I say. And I'm talking to my son. I think he was about 18 at the time, and he said, "Dad, I feel you, but I'm 18. I'm not about 50. I'm here. Could you meet me where I am?" And I had to think about that, because I'm trying to lecture him like he's almost 50-year-old. And he's 18 years old. And he said, "Dad, I'm just not there yet." And I get it, because that turns you off when you start lecturing to people. So yeah, man, I agree with you, brother. We got to meet people where they are, Mr. Larry. We got to.
Right.
Right. Speaking of a change, the hottest thing that's going on right now is the Black Lives Matter movement. There was a protest in Philadelphia yesterday. President Trump visited Philadelphia for his campaign, his campaign run, and then there was a lot of people out in the streets. I saw it on social media. I want to ask all three of you gentlemen. I want to start off with Mr. Larry. What are your thoughts on the Black Lives Matter movement?
Okay, so we're at a different stage now in this country than ever before. We've never been in this particular stage before because of Donald Trump and his racist base, and how he's in your face with his racist, he's arrogant with his racism and so forth. And now because you have to say to white people that because you're seeing police officers shooting and killing Black people now, don't think that it just started. Been going on forever, but it just because we have cameras in our phones is the reason why it's coming out.
Right.
And so there has to be dialogue, and absent of now there has been nobody more patient in the world than Black folks in America. We've been told one lie after another lie after another lie after another lie. We've been told that we got to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, and we didn't have any boots. They knew we didn't have any boots. That we've been told if you just keep your nose clean and get an education, you'll be treated like Americans. That's false. That was a big lie. And so now we're in a situation where this generation is not the generation that was singing "We Shall Overcome." They're not going to be doing that stuff. I mean, enough is enough. They could see we were patient back then, and it did nothing in this country. So now there has to be a more aggressive movement to get the attention of the American government. And so here we have the Black Lives Matter. And white people have an obligation. Now, look, the question is, do you want America to get better or not? That's the question, because white people have been, they've been running a rigged game. They've been, you think that back. Okay, I grew up I went to elementary school in the 50s. And we're setting up every day saying, we pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic, which is in one nation under God, individual with liberty and justice for all. The people at the school, when we were saying that every single day, they knew that didn't apply to us. There wasn't any liberty and justice for all. And so Black people have been saying that forever. And now we're reached to the point, because of the mass media, because of the cameras and the phones and all that stuff, it's in your face. And now on top of that, here comes Trump talking about let's make America great again. And every Black person knew that meant let's make America white again, and so now he's that like fueled up his base. Now you got in your face racism, and you got some well-meaning white folks who are saying, oh man, I see it now. I see it now. It is wrong. And so, but the Black Lives Matter is necessary. I mean, I don't go along with burning and certainly not in looting your own community, but it's getting the attention. I mean, it's getting the attention, and we're making progress. So the Black Lives Matter is necessary. And I've said this over and over to the white people to say, that go back, that fire back at you, well, all lives matter. Okay, come on now, you really don't want to understand what we're saying. The same people that say that Colin Kaepernick, they want to make it up, that was about the flag. He's disrespecting the flag. It had nothing to do with the flag. And the only reason that you're not seeing it is because you don't want to see it. And now when people burning up stuff and looting and all that stuff, now it's in our face. The whole world sees it.
Right.
Got a racist president. And so it's now at a point where Black Lives Matter is absolutely necessary. The movement is absolutely necessary.
All right, Emmanuel, I know you've participated in some of the marches, I believe, if I stand correct.
Yeah, I love the movement. Personally, I agree, Brother Larry. One thing this generation ain't going for is putting us back in situations of the past. This is not happening. And I love it. I love, I love being a part of it. I don't hate nobody, but I love my people. I got more white friends in a little bit. I got more, I grew up in Williamsport, Pennsylvania after I left Philly. So I got a whole lot of Caucasian fans, but I also done cut a lot of people off over this movement. Because I just feel like if you don't understand where we coming from regarding Black Lives Matter, one thing about Black folks that I love most is we don't have no hate. Out of all the stuff that we've been through for hundreds and hundreds of years and things that our ancestors, we still love. We still able to love. We still able to get up every day and do our best and push forward and push beyond all, everything. I feel like this movement now is becoming politicized, and that's the one thing that I don't like about it. That's if I can say anything, and I feel like so many people trying to become a part of it company wise and to just say that they're a part because it's the end thing to do now. But like as Larry said, we've been going through all this far beyond a social media, far beyond having access to cameras. We've had, our ancestors have been fighting, for us to have an opportunity, for us to be treated equally from the beginning, for more than 400 years. But I feel like United States of America, the only way for truly, truly change is to literally dismantle our Constitution, and that's just, or dismantle it and rewrite it. Because we know that nothing in the Constitution was related to us as a people. Nothing was for our good. And if we are a nation, that's changed, if we are a nation for all, if we are a nation that, that wants to see change and that has moved past the things of our past, we have to understand that, we need to dismantle some things and begin to, accept the truth. America ain't never been great, if we want to be honest. But I just feel like the Black Lives Matter movement, we need to begin to really, really strategically fight for things beyond police brutality, things beyond related to law enforcement, which those are major, 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 major issues that we have. But I just feel like we need to begin to even look beyond, and figure out how can we incorporate even other things too, because if police brutality stop, which again, it needs to stop. If police brutality stop, what's next? What's the next? What's the next? We still gonna be suppressed. We still going, the Constitution still ain't gonna be for our benefit. We still gonna have, poverty. We still gonna have lack of education in our neighborhoods. We still gonna have, we still gonna be over policed. We still gonna be going through so many different things that I just feel like us as a people, we need to really come together and figure out what we want, figure out where we going next, because we got a lot of work to do. The Black Lives Matter movement is just in its beginning stages, if you ask me, because we got so much more to do.
Okay. Lorenzo?
I really admire the Black Lives Matter movement. I really enjoy young people being involved in activism. People who understand. People who don't choose not to understand. Colin Kaepernick tried to say this for years. Our ancestors prior to that tried to say it peacefully for years. We got a new generation, like everyone is saying. This new generation, I think Mr. Larry said earlier, when he went to school, I went to school, and you went to school, they told us this stuff. We pretty much like, hey, okay, yeah, we got it. This younger generation figured out they've been lied to, and they're rebelling for it now. So what we have to understand with the Black Lives Matter movement, they're saying and everybody knows this, Black Lives Matter too, simply because for years it has never mattered. Let's be honest about it. Right. And people who come up with this argument about black on black crime, I said this the last time on your show.
Right.
It's BS. Crime is based on people who live in your neighborhood in totality. 85%, 80%, 81% of white people kill other white people. It goes Asian on Asian crime. You don't hear people saying that. That was subterfuge. That was something to put in place to say, oh, every time something happens, oh, we're going to point to that over there, the red herring. Yes, do we have a problem? Certainly we have a problem, but so does every community. My co-host always says that we are to help, simply because I just don't expect this country to change drastically in my lifetime. We can continue to fight for progress, but like we said earlier, you asked a question about the village. We are to help. We have to build that village. We have to make sure we got homework centers and tutors in our neighborhoods. We have to make sure that we're attending the school board meetings and voting in local elections. We got to make sure we're going to parent-teacher conferences. If not, if our face is not in the place, the same thing is going to happen. So I really enjoy the movement because I believe we got lazy. We got comfortable as a people. We started progressing and getting things. We saw President Obama in the White House and a Black First family. And then I remember something happened, and I think this one of the politicians said something, or someone in the community, and they ostracized them. NWC came out and said, we shouldn't have said that. Come to find out, the tape was doctored. We became so comfortable, we start turning on ourselves. So this is good that these young people are waking us up saying, look, we done tried it this way. And my biggest fear, to be honest with you, is either you negotiate with this generation and Mr. Larry's generation. I just don't think the younger people are going to be willing to hear that or ready to hear that. You understand what I'm saying? So let's try to get it right now, because I can't promise you what's going to happen after this generation. Because they're different people, right, Mr. Larry? They're different.
Yeah, and see, it's becoming. If you leave young people alone, if you leave children alone, they'll get along with. There ain't gonna be no racism. It's not born in you. It's taught to you. And society has been run by white people, and to keep it for white people, by and for white people. Okay. And I think we have made some progress because of the outlandish, crazy stuff that Donald Trump has done. It's create a situation where we have those four bold sisters in Congress, and they're not going for the normal stuff, and not playing that good old boy game. Because at one point Congress was all white males, just with maybe one or two of us somewhere, and they would patronize each other. The Republicans and the Democrats were making out, they knew what each other were doing. Nobody was blowing the whistle on anybody because all of them were benefited. Mm-hmm. And now you let some of us in, and we're saying, whoa, we're not going for that. We're not going for that. Change that. And America is seeing, they try to make a big deal and lie, but they're starting to see there is some progress. Just a few years ago when they ostracized Colin Kaepernick for taking a knee. Now you got the professional athletes wearing stuff on their uniform.
In the same league that didn't want it to happen.
Yeah,
they're still blackballing them.
Right. And so we're making a little bit of progress. And you're having white guys who are taking knees. And all this because you're starting to see we're not making this stuff up. This is America. This is your America, white folks who have been dishonest and disloyal to your own people, to your own American people. And now we have a generation of white folks who are saying, hey, listen, we get it. And we're gonna be with you side by side. And they're letting us in the game. Before we weren't allowed to be in the game. So no matter what we said, we were outside the game. Now they have to let us in the game, and we're starting to see a little bit of progress.
Lorenzo, I want to go back to you real quickly. You were in law enforcement, and one of the things that I've seen in some of these protests is where some of the protesters, African Americans, will confront some of the African American police officers and saying, "How can you let this happen to us? Y'all not on your own side. Y'all not protecting your own people. You're on their side. You want to brutalize us." So have you, as a police officer and law enforcement officer, have you ever had a conversation or been a conversation with other African Americans saying, "Hey, Lorenzo, what's going on, man? You're a police officer."
I'm attacked almost daily. I work on the federal level. I'm attacked almost daily, and it doesn't bother me. What I simply tell you, and I told you on the last show when I was on with you, people don't do that around good people. I'm telling you right now, I don't witness that stuff. I'm in executive leadership. I know I can fire people, hire people, and all those things. People simply don't do that stuff, okay? Does it happen? Yes, and I stand up to it. When Black people tell me why you're in law enforcement, you know what I tell them? Because you can yell all you want from the outside, but you got to be in the ring to change the game. Same thing with politics. You can't complain about stuff being corrupt if you're not willing to vote, go out there and vote and run for office. You got to be in the game. And let me tell you, I've been sitting in boardrooms in DC with FBI, CIA, DEA, everybody, and they'll tell you certain conversations they don't have when I'm in the room because that Black face is there. You understand? Some things people say they get out of pocket, I reel them back in. Do all of us do that? Probably not. I can't speak that, but I'm gonna tell you right now. If you guys knew the stuff that most of us go through in our profession to dismantle anti-Blackness within it, you probably appreciate it. People will probably appreciate it a little more, but I don't have time to explain to people because my work and my job and in the community speaks for me. And I know I outwork most of the people who run their mouth because they don't give back to community. They don't do anything in our community. I'm out there all the time doing things. So if you want to lecture me, go out there and match my work because what I'm doing is there trying to dismantle anti-Blackness on the federal level. I done probably hired more Black people who probably wouldn't want to work there until they saw me. I ride the metro bus in DC and the train. I don't sit behind the steering wheel. And I see people in some of the roughest neighborhoods and we talk and we dialogue, young men and young women that look like me.
But what had a trick that the white racist and superiority group has done over the years is that the house nigger, field nigger. And they will treat you a certain way if you in the house and let you know that if you're not gonna act like them, if you're not gonna be loyal to them, you're going out there in the field. And so we have different situations. I know several years ago, I got in this discussion with one of the Capitol Police, a brother. And it was really ticking me off because in every aspect of what we were talking about, he was taking the side of the police. And if I had to say, brother, do you know why we don't trust you? Because you're talking about Blue Lives Matter when you don't have sense enough to know they will get rid of your butt if they could. If they don't have no loyalty to you. Mr. And you're Larry, taking, yes, sir.
I'm a Black man long before I was
not everybody.
You hear me?
I'm sorry.
I was a Black man long before I was in law enforcement.
Yeah.
And one thing I can tell you, one thing I can tell you, going to DC in the early morning hours on these back roads in Maryland, how many times I've been stopped by the Maryland State Police? You know what they're good for? Racial profiling. They were sued not long ago and lost a lawsuit. For racial profiling. You know I get stopped and have guns pulled on me as a law enforcement person because of the hue of my skin. I still get doors locked on me. I still get people holding their purse. I'm Black before profession. There's no such thing as blue lives. Blue lives are a profession. I am a Black man who happened to work in law enforcement at an executive level. And when people say that house niggas up, I run the house now. So guess what? I can hire and fire people.
Amen. All right. All right.
And
everyday people got to. And see, the everyday people, the people out on the street, they need to see more of people like you. There are people in the Wilmington Police Department that are like that. But for the most part, or not for the most part, but for a certain part, we are, you have people in the community that say, don't trust police no matter what.
Mhm.
And so just like in this last election in the city of Wilmington, they want to blame, the people, there's a certain group of people, they want to blame the mayor and the chief of police on the shootings that's happening in the community. Okay, they do have a certain degree of responsibility, but so do the elected officials, and so does the community. In many cases, the community knows who's doing the shooting, but they don't trust the police. They won't turn anybody into the police because there's just an innate distrust and even hatred for the police because of pride, because the way police have treated us in the past. And we have to get past that to see that, and this has to be a deliberate action that police of color have to understand that's why we feel like that and help us to get past that. And just simply say, well, shoot, they ain't right to feel like that because that ain't the way I am and da da da. Okay, well, they do have there's a reason for them to feel like that. So we've got to work hard.
Absolutely. I guest
get
lecture at
us out
Dale
of it.
State and Lincoln University. I'll guest lecture, and we talk about just these things to students
Yeah.
of color. That's why I do that. Not
Yeah.
to gloss stuff over. There are people in my profession that are full of shit,
Yeah.
right? But I'm telling you right
Yeah.
now, on my watch, it just doesn't happen. I'm telling you that right now. If you do, you out.
Right.
It's simple as that. But we got to get to the point that we start growing this stuff and get more people on the inside. Once you get people on the inside, I don't care if it's political office like Emmanuel said he ran for. I don't care if we need our voice inside. We can't just sell from the outside. We make change from the inside.
Right.
Can I say something from?
Yeah, sure.
I tried. So a couple years ago, I say about 2 years ago, I tried to be a part of the difference. So I was going to become a police officer. And so I was since we being frank, I was at Middle and going to be a Middletown police officer. It was over 100 some applicants. They broke it down to 4. They hired 4 of us. They hired 2 white guys, a white girl, and they hired myself. It's 4 black cops in the entire Middletown, Delaware Police Department, apparently. And I know 2 of them. So I passed the physical. They hired me, sent me my offer letter, went through all this. They sent me down to lower Delaware and this one little precinct. And they sent me to this precinct. They had me take an audio lie detector test. And mind you, I hadn't eaten nothing the other day. I told complete honest truth. That's just, I told you I beat the street. So I'm gonna tell you the truth of where I am now. And so I told the truth, told them everything that they wanted to hear. And so the guy that was administering this audio lie detector test said to me, well, your voice, something was going on with your voice. So we think you were lying about this, about smoking marijuana and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, do I hang around drug dealers and everything like that? I was lit. So I'm like, well, I wasn't lying. So do I need to, re-answer something, oh no, it's all right. I get a phone call. I didn't the entire day. I get a phone call maybe 9 o'clock that night, and was like, oh, you don't have to go to, because I had a psychological test the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you don't have to go to your psychological test. You're done the process. You're not going further. No answers, no nothing to anything. Come to find out, everybody else made it through but me, the black guy.
Mm-hmm.
I would have been. I went through this entire process. And so I was going to sue the department. But I was still going through Newcastle County's process. Because at this point, I just wanted to be a cop, not because I wholeheartedly wanted to be a cop,
right?
But because I wanted to sincerely make a difference in the community. right? Because I got tired of seeing. And then I had officers that are, you know, friends of mine in Wilmington. And after that, I didn't get, you know, I made it, passed all tests, passed physicals. Finally, I didn't make it. There's a lot of people that applied for Newcastle County, didn't make it through, didn't go through. So, but I still never decided to sue this department because I knew I was done wrong. I just gave up. Then about a year went by. A couple of my friends in Wilmington police, well, we got we got openings coming up, but it had turned me off completely. I said, I'm done with this. I said, you know, it got to a point where my friends were like, well, why? We need people like you. Why? And I'm like, y'all boys turned me off. I said, and I felt bad because I let them turn me away from an opportunity to be that more engaged into the community and to be able to save even more.
It happened to me too, brother.
And I said, I'm done. So I look at it as y'all hired me, you know, as that token Black guy with the intent of never letting me get through. And I was done after that. Like I have.
Well,
yeah, so
they don't want you to act Black.
It happened to me.
They don't want you to act Black. When you're answering the questions, they want you to answer them as though you were white. And when you start to move your head as you're talking and everything, it's like you maybe raise your voice deep about that thing, and oh no, he's not doing it right.
Well,
that's not right. That
happened to me at Delaware State Police. My goal was to be in the Delaware State Police. Because growing up during the crack epidemic, I've seen people. My mother's house was shot. I saw police bust doors down, and I made it through the process. So I go to one of the troops down in Sussex, and they come in, and the guy like slammed like 3 packets on the table. I'm like, okay. He said, explain that. I said, what's that? That's your father's record and your 2 brothers' records. I'm like, okay. If you pull something that said Lorenzo on it, I'll answer that. They are different people. And if do you look at my background, you should admire the fact that if they got that, I don't, something must be right. Long story short, they didn't hire me. Went through the process like 2 or 3 times. At that point, I got frustrated, right? Because I'm talking about officers calling me that I know, hey man, you got it, you on. Next thing I know, nothing. Fast forward, they were sued by the Justice Department for the test being biased. My job at that time, I was working in DC. My job was on Indiana Avenue, Pennsylvania. Theirs was right behind the DOJ building. They called me and said, oh, well, yeah, they settled a lawsuit, but you don't get any of the proceeds because unfortunately you passed the test. I said, whoa. So your premise for the DOJ is saying Black people are too stupid to pass the test. That's why you want to pay people out. But I passed the test and just didn't get hired several times, and I'm not qualified. So do you know how that sounds? You're letting the state police saying, oh, we didn't hire you because you didn't pass the test, not because what about qualified? And what I did for me, Emmanuel, it sent me to the federal level. It forced me to go and do something else, if it makes sense to you. Because they frustrated me that badly because do you put everybody record like that? And that really bothered me. I'm telling you right now, because I was annoyed.
Okay, gentlemen, we're coming up to a close of the show, so this is a great conversation. So what I want each one of you to do, be about 2-3 minutes each, starting off with Emmanuel. All 3 of you gentlemen are strong, powerful men. If you want to give a shout out or dedication, show some love to the woman who helped shape you to be the man that you are, whether it be your wife, your daughters, your aunts, your cousin, what woman out there, and they may be watching the show right now, I don't know, but if you want to give any special acknowledgement to any females that help you be the man that you are today, let's start off with Emmanuel.
For the longest time in my life, you know, I only had respect for women because I in my life, you know, that were example to me. You know, that really was for me. So I got my biological mother and then my godmother who brought me in when I was literally 11 years old. And so if I'm gonna give anybody a shout out, it's definitely them. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I got you now. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So if I'm gonna give anybody a shout out, it's them. my biological mom for, growing up, I never understood why I had to go through a lot of the things that I did. I never, and I was angry, but I had to remember that she did the best that she could, but I didn't realize that until. So I'm thankful for the things that I was able to experience in my life. The trauma only made me. It made me it built me into me, who I am today. My my godmom, for pulling me in and for giving me somewhere to lay my head and showing me love. So women were my village for my entire, for most of my life.
Right.
So I can't just go one, to
Right.
women or, I look up, I really, really do. I am so many women. And then my wife, I say my wife most of all, because my wife, God used my wife to literally shift the entire direction of my life. When I was 22 years old, I met her and she said something to me when she was 18 years old that changed my life. She said, your life is spinning out of control and you don't want to do nothing about it. I had a good job, but I was still streets. And when she said that to me, she said, you used to get what you want, but we can never be together because your life's spinning out of control. And it made me think. And from that moment forward, I was the street alone. I was 22 years old, 4 years, and I got on fire.
Okay. All right. So So let's go to Lorenzo.
My mother, one of the strongest women I know. I've seen go through some things, work hard, never give up, never complain. And also my wife, because again, we've been together 30 years, been married 25. I remember when I had nothing, only a dream and a hustle.
Mm-hmm.
And she was there to believe me when I stopped believing in myself. When things didn't go right, she was there to say, you know what, come on, you got this. You got this. So I appreciate that. So, but my mother, one, and my wife, two.
Okay. Mr. Larry.
Of course, as I mentioned earlier, I was raised by my mother, and my two grandmothers were in the same town, as well as my grandfathers. But I, once I left home, I had a different perspective, and so I really understood the value of strong Black women, and which my mom was the premier example. And so even though I was with boys in the street, when I had my three daughters, it was like I saw things differently. I saw the world differently. And I mean, I'll say, I've said before, I almost became a feminist because I could see how women were treated differently, and so there were strong women out in the community that would pull me up, like Helen Chambers and and people like that. They would just pull you up and say, listen here, come here, boy, let me tell you something. And then then comes the education. And so even now, my three daughters, and then I've got extended daughters, that either play basketball for me or in programs for me that people think are my daughters. And I just collectively, I see the world differently because of the females that are in my life.
Empathy, brother. That's what we need. We all need to see it from
Yes,
a
indeed.
perspective.
Okay, I'd like to thank all three of you gentlemen for taking part in episode 2 of a conversation with men of color. You guys were wonderful guests. Thank the audience for watching. Share, subscribe, man. Like this show. Once again, I thank all you brothers.
Thank you, man, for having us. I appreciate you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being on with such an outstanding group of men, including you,
Thank you, guys.
Rashad.
I appreciate it.
All right.
Thank
All right now.
All right, brothers. Have a good one.
Okay, man. All right. Take care,
Peace.
gentlemen. Please.
All right.